That's all you got. The got it consentment, and
I just saw that. Yeah. Okay.
here we go. Yeah, everybody, welcome to Sunday Live Chat. Here we are. It's another Sunday and another special guest today joining us live from Edmonton, Canada.
Oh, actually, I'm not in Edmonton.
Not in Edmonton,
Sorry to disappoint. No, I'm actually in Ontario now.
in
We
Ontario.
yeah, we moved a while ago back to Waterloo originally, and my parents. I'm at my parents' place, so so just so everyone knows, I'm in the basement of my parents' house in Ontario,
And
and
welcome to you, Darrin Huss from Psyche and many other cool projects. It's great to finally meet you. I don't know if we've ever physically met before.
no, I had a chance. This is a long time ago. You guys played in Bochum at a place called the Psyche, and it was probably in the 90s. And a friend of mine was in a band that opened for you, the Fair Sex. I don't know if you have heard of them or remember them, but anyway, he was invited. He opened for you there, and we were all going to meet backstage. But he was like, I was in the bar, so I just saw some of the show, and so yes, I've never had a chance to meet either of you. So yeah, this is the first time, and it's probably really weird for everyone watching.
Oh, I think this is great. It's about time, really. We have to honor Canadian bands such as yourself who've even been around longer than Skinny Puppy. You guys have been like, you guys are the old schoolers, really, aren't you? In some sense of the word.
Well, yes. I mean, we kind of started our releases, I think, around the same time, but we had actually. I mean, let's face it. My brother and I started Psyche, and so obviously, being brothers, we were doing music ever since we were together, and we actually officially started with the name Psyche as late as sometime around end of '81. But I decided to say that the official date for me is something like April '82 because I think it was the first dates that we ever played, and then had like a logo behind us and all that. And that was with Dwayne. Because my brother didn't want to be a duo because we noticed that duos were getting kind of hip at the time, and we said let's be a trio. So my brother actually met Dwayne in the keyboard shop and brought him to our place and said, "Here's our third member."
I heard a quote that
Whether I
said,
was approving or not. So yeah.
I heard a quote that said that if you hadn't run into Dwayne, that your career might have continued on a more rock path.
Oh, well, actually, it's because of you guys.
What? No, hold on, hold
Um,
on. Let's not jump ahead too quick.
okay.
The name is the inspiration
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
came from this, right? This
Yeah,
wonderful
that's
seven.
right. That's right.
And it,
I was okay, so I'll go back. My brother had I was going to the same high school as Dwayne. So Dwayne was only a year older than me. And I hadn't actually I'd seen him around, as it is at the school, like with the new wave people, the ones wearing the buttons and stuff. And so I'd seen him around.
yes.
I figured he was pretty cool. And but I was really surprised I didn't know he, played keyboards. And when we started in Edmonton, we were the only synthesizer like band at all. There was not even a rock band with the synthesizer, being used. So like our heroes or our local heroes were SNFU and a group called the Mods, and later this the one with Mo. Now I forgot the name, so that's really embarrassing. Uh, they had one hit called "I'm an Adult Now" later on.
Right.
I can't remember the name, but anyway, sorry. But
You're
anyway,
teaching me.
yeah, I'll tell you some Canadian history. So,
This is
okay,
great.
so So I'm listening to records, including that 7-inch there, and then Dwayne comes in and my brother's, oh, I met Dwayne in the keyboard shop, and I want to have another member so that I don't have to do he didn't want to play everything himself, and of course, in those days, like all you had was sequencers, so like you still had to, like play all your stuff. You didn't have anything running from a computer, so so we wanted to play live. That was very, very definite. So we would have our drum machine, but we wanted, like, my brother and Dwayne would do like all of it, the bass lines, the synth solos and the pads and so on.
Very
And yeah, so that it's kind of rock and roll, like just with our synths. But what happened was years later, when we found out that Dwayne joined Skinny Puppy, and we were getting a lot of comparisons to you guys because your first Remission EP came out, and pretty much at the same time as Smothered Hope was going through the clubs in Canada, our song Brain Collapses kind of took off. And so there was a lot of comparison because, Canadian bands and all that stuff, and the only synth bands really. I mean, to be honest, right? Like when we both started, it was sort of like it was all rock and I guess country. Country. I don't know.
Like I kind of want to ask you a question because like at that time you had to be exposed at some point to like what was essentially the underground, and like you could be exposed. I know you were talking to me how you liked it when I show records.
Yes.
So a record like Being Boiled by the Human League or
Right.
Fat Gadget.
Yeah.
Ricky's Hand, or for instance, Back to Nature or something.
Yeah, there it is.
Okay. So was there a place in Edmonton that you guys could hang out and hear somebody that was spinning this stuff that made you guys originally want to go out and get the equipment?
Oh, okay. Well, this is good. Okay. So first of all, we were underage, right? When we first started with Dwayne. So like he was like 17 and I was like 16 and my brother was 14.
You guys were very young. And I think I'm 4 years older.
So we first heard like alternative music, basically, I guess, Brave New Waves.
Right.
Brave New Waves was our guidance. And then when we started clubbing, well, at least Dwayne and I, we were going out to the Krieg Club in Edmonton and Scandals. That was our places. And that's where we heard, Blancmange and Fat Gadget and all that kind of stuff. So that was the beginning. But before we only had access to the records like that you showed, I have also the 7-inch of Back to Nature and all the Fat Gadget ones. And I would just go to the university record store and pick them up. Yeah, yeah. He was my biggest hero. So, I did rip off the shaving cream act in the beginning. And
nobody would have known anyways.
If you're going to do something that, like to get attention. We started out, where our inspiration was probably similar to yours. We had all the, Cabaret Voltaire and DAF, and it was a small little crowd of people that would go. I guess we had a DJ who would fly to England. I guess he was from London or something. They go and pick up records and play new stuff, right? So we'd be like dancing at clubs and hearing all that, the early stuff. And this is like the early Fat Guy, even way before Collapsing New People and all that, right? Like we're talking about, Cabaret Voltaire, Nag Nag Nag.
Yeah.
Back to Nature we also covered. So that was our big starting out point. And Dwayne actually, what we both loved was Yazoo and Soft Cell. Yeah, that was a major inspiration. we even kind of ripped off that one line. Yeah, and of course we covered Warm Leatherette once and tried to get on Mute Records, but that didn't happen. But we'll get into that later. Oh, nice one. Yeah, Gary. We basically have the same influences. I had that one too. Dreaming of You.
First Depeche Mode.
Yeah, the pop stuff came. Yeah, the pop stuff came later. Actually, I'd say about 83. was then, you know, the Yazoo, Eurythmics, the soft cell break. Soft cell was happening in '81, but we didn't really latch onto it because we were still into the underground thing. And yeah, and basically we both started around the same time. Yeah, that was like, you know, that was that
Oh,
one. What you're holding up there was, of course, the key to my future. So
it's like so inspirational, though. You couldn't
yeah,
help but not be moved by this if you heard it
yeah.
late night.
The sounds and the effects on the vocals, obviously, because that was one of the first records with all those cool, you know, echoes and then different beats and off rhythm and all that, and so it was like, you know, we're like, oh wow, you can make something that's poppy and danceable, but at the same time it's experimental as hell. So we all love that, and yeah, that was, so that's the beginning. That's basically the beginning, and Psyche was based on, you know, pretty much what you just showed, and then we chose the name from the B side of Killing Joke, because we went through a few names. We had a really funny name, Euthenics, um, you know, based on Eurythmics, but with the word youth. And then I thought, well, I don't think that's cool, because like when we're older, I don't want to have the word youth in the
Oh
in
yeah,
the,
for sure. Yeah,
in
that's a
the name of the band, because I, you know, but lo and behold, we have the Pet Shop Boys and they're in their 60s. But you know, I didn't want to feel like a part of something that I'm not at a certain age. So I had some planning ahead there, and we changed to Psyche. I think pretty much what I'm considering my debut, when we did the show at Krieg Club, and
Krieg.
it was a festival, right? So there was all the different styles of music, and we had our Psyche logo behind us, and but not the one that everyone knows. It was originally sort of a rip off of the Cramps, so it looked pretty damn close, actually. And so that was our banner, and that was a sort of, I guess, our debut with Dwayne and my brother, and we of course pissed off the audience, because I had read in New Musical Express a review of Public Image Limited's first show in New York, and they wanted it to be more of an art project. So John Lydon actually stood. No, I'm not sure. I think they were all behind a film screen, so you could
Right,
only see shadows. And I
right.
thought that was like really cool. So what we did was we had the Psyche banner, and my brother and Dwayne were behind it, and I stood in front of it and just did the songs. And people were like, because they were always insulting our synths, and I thought, well, we're not going to show you how we play, so I'm just going to stand here and do my songs, and that was kind of our radical debut, where apparently we cleared out pretty much the whole the whole house, and so there you go. That's my beginning story.
I like I like how you kind of skipped, like, because I went through, by the time when you guys were already creating the crawler and stuff like that,
Yeah,
I was still in Images in Vogue, and I was like, I hadn't yet had my head kind of fully dented yet by Bill Lieb when he kind of exposed me to the darker realms, and it kind of changed my life rather quickly. And I'm going to say that was definitely in 1983. So you guys were definitely on in the direction, sort of like applying your inspiration. Like, I was surprised when I look back, and I look at um, the White Pages TV Edmonton.
oh yeah,
You guys, it's so good. I mean, I just like, it wasn't so easy to go and take your inspiration at that point, especially with keyboards at that moment. But you guys didn't seem to have any trouble at all. Like, right away with a pretty amazing, like, I love that era, 83. For when I go back now and listen to it, the sound of that era is
oh
so,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and you guys have that as well. It's like the sound of like the 1983 era. Psyche is I mean, I hadn't heard you yet at that point. I'm trying to think about when the first time I don't think I had actually, was the crawler available on some sort of like indie video
Yeah, it was it
shows?
was well, the White Pages was the first time that like anyone heard it,
Right.
but the actual release, I guess, would have been either on a cassette, and then about 85. Oh yeah, that's nice. Around 85, we it was on some Dr. Death's compilation.
Dr. Death. Wow.
Yeah, So that was kind of like we just played recently in Chicago and New York, and we just found out how many people know the Crawler and Brain Collapses, whereas we never really played much in America, actually, like ever. And now we know that everyone knows that stuff. Oh yeah, that's great. You're showing the picture. That was the original Psyche logo that's behind us. Yeah,
That's
so,
big time production though.
yeah, yeah.
It's awesome.
Well, we got lucky because we are a synth band. So when we did the White Pages thing, like all the rock bands just played live, right? I mean, we did play live, but we wanted, we wanted the music video culture to be happening. We wanted to have like the whole, like basically we're trying to make music videos out of our performance there on White Pages. So that's why we have all that stuff. Like we wrote little screenplays, and it had like a little story to tell for each of the songs, and also a bit of a dark sense of humor, with the silly stuff, like with the little spider crawling down the window and, and stuff
that
like
was
that.
Alternative.
Yeah, we were like, like we're serious goths already, and we're still like just kids. And I had this obsession with always showing off my influences and also provoking people with my strange influences, because as an electronic band, of course, now I'm wearing a Crass t-shirt, so there you go. And the Dead Kennedy.
Very underground, like
yeah, because I mean, it was like we're punk, right? I mean, we're using synths, but we're not like, we're not doing Tainted Love at that time. And it's interesting that you just said to me, I forgot about the fact that you were in Images in Vogue. So we basically twisted directions. By the time Dwayne joined you, we started going towards the pop direction. So that's really funny.
well, I mean, it wasn't. I found it to be a very, like, I'll call it innocent time, where you couldn't really tell yet, like exactly what was going to happen. And it's funny at the time that in Images in Vogue, we actually thought we were pretty alternative. So it was like,
well, yeah, it is obviously in comparison to the pop music of the day. So yeah,
yeah. And I think, like, also, you could have made a video at this time, such as this one, where
yes.
it didn't really sound nearly as, like, it's aged so well. Like when I listened to the Remember Dwayne
Yes.
CD, it sounds so good, man. I just want to say that I really love, especially all your earliest stuff. And the funniest thing is about knowing Dwayne and being introduced to Dwayne in the manner that I was. You and I had an original sort of intro conversation, and when we met Dwayne and he came in, we didn't know he actually was in Psyche, and we hadn't actually learned that until after we'd already made, like, I think it came out when we were during the making of an album or something later, but he always spoke about it highly. He always spoke about you guys. Oh, this lady is classic, by the way. I love the hairstyle. Yeah. He always spoke about you guys as though it was an incredibly great learning period. And so I think there was something about, maybe, was cEvin also classically trained?
No, that's the other thing that's interesting. We both learned, when we were younger, we both learned a little bit of piano, and my brother learned guitar, actually. But not like, to the extent that Dwayne, like he could really like play along to any pop song, or, like he knew all the, what do you call it? I guess, like he would know the chords and the structures. I could like, play to some notes, because we did actually learn from some notebooks, but I wouldn't call it classically trained at all. It was all just this didactic thing where my brother just happened to, I don't know, be able to make those sounds and knew what he wanted to sound like. It was like doing soundtrack work, really.
I just saw the Pro One on there. It's funny that it's an integral part of like all the bands I've ever been in. Vogue, Skinny Puppy, and now I see it on the counter there. Was that like an acquisition that you felt like, oh, here we go. This is where life starts.
Oh, definitely. We needed the sequencer because basically, like, I guess, you know, you're a synth band, but we're still thinking in terms of like writing, I guess, rock oriented. And so that's your bass player right there. Right. So like we obviously, you know, we were listening to DAF and all the German stuff. And, you know, so once you've decided we're not going to get a drummer, we did actually, before we even met Dwayne, we kind of were like guitar, bass, and drums. But the moment we heard a synth, it was all over. It was like, that's it. That's what we want to do. So we got the drum machine, and then we needed something that makes a groove. So that was the Pro One. It was affordable, and we loved those crunchy sounds. And then the Korg Monopoly on top of that is basically what Psyche's all about. So that's our two. Yeah.
Another excellent keyboard. What was the drum machine?
The drum machine, we went through a few. So the very beginning was, you know, the Mattel Symphonics.
Oh, really?
Yeah, with the little pads. And and then we had the Roland, I think it was called Boss, the DR110 or 220.
Is that the one Dwayne's holding when your guys are playing there up in the air?
The one he's holding, I think, yeah, that might be the 220. Actually, yeah, I can't remember. It's on the video somewhere. We'll have to have another closer look. But the yeah, that he's holding it up, and it had the hand claps. He's playing the hand claps on the crawler, and yeah. So yeah, that was probably the first one. I mean, the second after the Mattel, and then we did experiment with the Oberheim briefly, the DMX. And but the main Psyche drum machine that you hear on our first two records, the first album and the Remembering Dwayne demos, they're all on 4-track, and that was all the 220. And then we had the 707 was our next.
Oh, big.
Yeah.
Classic times.
Yeah.
And I see, what do I see here? Well, I see the Pro.
That's the Korg Monopoly, and the Pro Ones were our mainstay.
There you go.
Yeah.
What's this little box?
That's probably the microcomposer, the Roland MC202. I forget the number.
One of the original sequencers. So you guys were also an external sequencer as well.
Yeah, that's right.
Is that a Dwayne solo on the porno song?
The whole porno song is basically Dwayne with my brother doing a few things. I didn't have anything to do with that. The joke about that song is our first band name was the Pinstripe Club. And I don't know why the hell the Pinstripe, but anyway, we had played in somebody's basement. And so the very first, I guess, pre-Psyche was Dwayne, my brother, and I just doing a bunch of synth covers, like The Model and New Life from Depeche Mode, and trying to think, well, that was the main two that were good, at least. And then we did our first original song together was Krieg, which of course is named after the club, and we of course didn't really know that it meant war in German. we just thought the word sounded cool, but you know, we learned later. But yeah, so that was our tribute to the Krieg Club, but it was also kind of making fun of the whole nightlife culture. It's a weird, you know, we're always in a weird zone in between taking things seriously and having our own sort of dark sense of humor. So we were all and by the way, now that you're showing this video,
you find that weird that Dwayne's got blood dripping out of his mouth?
I needed to mention, you just brought me on the okay, so he's all bloody there, and he only did that because we were like, my brother is like completely was into horror films. I was not quite as much as my brother, but we were like always, and he didn't like it so much, and we were so like, you got to do something because we want to have something gory. So that was his contribution to our whole image, and so little did we know that he would be joining you guys doing that later.
And how would we have ever known? It was the strangest thing when I asked Dwayne. I told you it's so unlikely that a person I knew him through girlfriend, and we had seen him only once with Water, so we didn't know really about any of his other bands' voice.
Yeah,
Or
it's amazing. It's such a short period of time. You feel like yourself. I mean, from my side of the story, I felt like it was forever. And we did have a sort of an animosity towards you guys in the
oh,
beginning.
that's
So
a shame.
this is our first. You know what? I'm really glad that we wrote each other before we started this, because I just wanted to like, I've I've had an aversion to be honest. And when you answered me and said that you had no clue, and I felt like, well, so it's all been very one-sided on my side. So I'm not going to say anything. For me, this is like the ultimate closure that you don't always get
Yeah.
in life. Because the fact is, I've lost my brother, and you've lost Dwayne, and I didn't, I've carried sort of a small torch of animosity for a while.
You need to cure that today,
I think I only
we
recently
need to
got
hug.
over. What?
We need to hug.
Oh, thank you. No, really, actually, this is the hug. So
Yeah.
this is good for me, because I think, yeah, when you first answered me and I asked you like if what you knew about us, and just to discover that you guys had no idea. And
No idea.
the only thing that we got from Dwayne after he joined was, we had a concert, and my brother went to a concert. I think it was Front for Two in Toronto, in the, I guess, the late 80s. And he met Dwayne for the first time in like 10 years. And I guess they sort of, talked and stuff. And we didn't know how much mutual respect was left, because we were hurt when he left us. And we were also, I guess, the second time around, we were hurt when we first went to Europe and started our second or third album, and you guys had been as well. I think you even played a year before we played, almost all the same places, and we felt somewhat abandoned, and then we were obviously jealous of the band that he joined. So just telling you now. So but but just to get past that, I just think it's cool that you weren't aware of it. And I guess I need to tell you the network story.
Oh, yeah.
Unless you have any questions before, and I'll get into it. It's a short little story that.
No, please. Yeah.
Okay, so the network story. So we're in Toronto, I think, with after Dwayne had left, and he was in another band in Edmonton, Voice. I don't know if you have any records of theirs, but they were doing covers, and he was doing like the pop stuff. So we thought that he left us because that's what he wanted to do, and that we were still too weird, and too underground. And then my family moved to Waterloo, where we had originally started, actually, but Psyche started in Edmonton. So anyway, so we're back in Waterloo when we got our first gig in Toronto, and this is around the time that the Psyche logo actually happened, the official Psyche logo. And we had this concert, and we met Mark Jowett after the concert, because we had been in contact, because I met Mark and Madeline from Mauve, the early Mauve,
Right.
because we wanted to open for them at Scandals. We were always like pining to open for the local, or whoever came there, had a synth, we had to open for them. So I became really good friends with Madeline, and then we kept in touch with Mark, and then we met him, like, I guess it was maybe only a year after we moved. Then he was in Toronto, and he was starting network and signing bands, right? And I think they had like some of the Edmonton bands already, like Neo 44 and stuff like that. It was way before Sarah McLachlan and all that, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it was just around the time he was
Whole story in itself.
yeah, he was just about to sign you guys, actually. So we had this talk, and he was telling me, I've got it, I like you guys. He wasn't that fond of our horror imagery, actually, but yeah, I have a band that's kind of similar to you already in Vancouver. Skinny Puppy, and we were like, well, how can anyone be similar to us? We're the only ones in Canada, right? So it's and then he was listening to our demos, and he was telling us what he thought of the first songs, but he kind of wanted us to make a major commitment, and I think that we would have eventually had to move to Vancouver as well, and we were still like 20, 21 and 19, right? So we were like, I don't know, we weren't sure if we were ready to go corporate as we thought. I mean, they were still independent, but I still considered them like a major deal, right? And we just kind of said, well, if you already got something that's like us, and they're already in Vancouver, we're not sure we're going to move. We're just kids. So we eventually just didn't, sign anything. And and then a year later, we released our Insomnia Theater album. And your Remission EP was on all the college radio stations. So just to give you a background, that's what happened at that time. I think 84, 85 around.
Yeah. So it's a lot happening there. It was like, Network was like a story where, Mauve and the whole sort of framework that was behind them was really the beginning of Network, as Mark was in Mauve. So that's probably where you met those guys, and how it all came together quite quickly is that because there was experience that we had with Images in Vogue, they were taking experience from that. So they would take like our connection with Stephen Gilmore and all these things are just sort of falling in place mutually from everybody. It was like kind of like a cool thing that was going on. And I can fully see how Psyche would have fit perfectly into that. And so I'm surprised that it didn't actually. But as you know, like as soon as Sarah McLachlan came along, the whole face of the label just changed about face when they
right in the middle of you guys like exploding, really. I mean, it's just wild. For me, it's weird because like I'm aware of like most of the stuff of your early days. Maybe I lost touch around the 90s or so on, but like I was completely aware of the Capitol deal and all the other stuff. But when Sarah McLachlan came out, and I hung out with her too in Montreal. I was living in Montreal with Kevin Komoda for a while too, so there's all kinds of weird connections. And and we were hanging out. I was hanging out with her as well, and so I heard a little bit more about the commercial thing and the Capitol deal and stuff. And I also wondered how that would work for you, because it wasn't like you were about to make a top 40 hit anytime soon, right? And I was thinking, isn't it weird when a label starts to have this range of music? I always wanted to be on a label that was just like all electronic bands. So like, you could be in with your peers and your favorites. And I thought, that's kind of scary. And we had the same thing because we tried to get signed to Mute, but we ended up on New Rose, and we were the only electronic band on New Rose at the beginning. And then they later signed one band called Numb from Vancouver. So then we had some label mates that were electronic from Canada. But, at the beginning, it was like the Cramps and Alex Chilton and all these rock things that we never heard of. So we, in a way, at the beginning, you want to be part of a group, and then actually you're excited that you stand out because you're like on your own. So it's kind of neat.
Before we zip ahead to you guys, going off to Europe, how early you are on the scene. Again, I remember going and seeing Alien Sex Fiend in 1984 on that tour.
Yeah, we opened for them. Yeah,
you guys opened for them.
Yeah, this one show. Yeah,
on this great, but that show was like one of the first shows of its kind. I don't know if it did the same thing to you. That's probably why you got the horror imagery over the top, like feeling like it's just totally okay to be somewhat horrific. I mean,
it was our dream, right? They came to Edmonton and they played at Scandals, where we wanted to open for Mauve, right? And we actually got Alien Sex Fiend. Then we were privileged enough in the right sound and the look that we got to open for them. And the biggest joke was we got to know them, and they were super, super nice. And they had Pro Ones also. So
Pro One as well.
We had 4 Pro Ones on stage. It was a Pro One shop.
So at that point, when you guys were opening for, we had never even played live yet with Skinny Puppy. So that's,
oh wow!
You guys are like at this point, Dwayne had already left at that point, right? And you
That's
guys,
right. That was our debut without him. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and you guys were like about to say, okay, you know what? I think we've gone as far as we can go in Canada, and with this whole realm of stuff. I mean, it was did you probably see like Europe as like the horizon where all of your favorite bands were?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah.
At a time to maybe go and see what that, because you know what was really funny is that similar thing happened to Skinny Puppy where we got offered a few indie deals in Europe, and then if it wasn't for Network coming along and starting out, I wonder if we would have. It's so funny because we have the same. I've looked at some of your favorite movies, and it's like we
Oh
all
yeah, I know.
like
Yeah.
the same thing, and we all grew up in the same inspiration and the same world and progressing in the same way. And you guys couldn't have heard Skinny Puppy. So your initial take on everything was so pure, but actually it just is so, I think it's just so cool. And, you know, at the same time, if I had known there was like some sort of like way I could have helped you guys in our way, I definitely would have done that had we linked together possibly. And
Yeah, it's weird. It's kind of sad because actually the time that you guys were like really big in North America is kind of one of the reasons why we thought, well, let's go to Europe because because they're like, well, Skinny Puppy's already got the North America territory, so we're done here. And the other thing was that we never ever played in Vancouver, so I never
really?
had a yeah, I never had a chance to like even like catch up or find out what was going on. I was only there once, and I hung out with Madeline and her boyfriend at the time actually, and I had no clue of anything. I think I only saw like the Mauve show there, and this was probably 83 or 4 as well. It was even pre-network really, and that was it. And then we were gone. Like we left because partly because of your success and partly because well yeah, you know, it was kind of
Guys,
the market was cornered.
it can't be that way. It can't be that way. I think it was like, you guys are like, I don't know. There's a certain Psyche sound that I think that you guys have, kept true
Oh,
to
there's lots of
over
differences.
40,
No,
40, 41,
yeah,
42 years now,
yeah,
11 albums, 3 EPs,
yeah,
5 compilations. That's a lot of work, not to
yeah.
mention all the other stuff that you've done. You've remained incredibly prolific throughout your career. I mean,
Well, yeah, yeah. You
there's
know,
releasing like
you need some good competition to keep yourself going.
so you release this after Dwayne after
Yes.
Dwayne leaves, and then that's it. It's time. You're off to Europe. And
Yeah.
what was your initial take on Europe? How did you feel about it?
Okay, so it was
How
pretty
young?
much after that first album, Insomnia Theater, that we thought, okay, like, you know, the comparisons and that we didn't get the deal with Network. So we were like, all right, let's send out some more stuff. And of course, everyone and their dog wanted to be on Mute Records, obviously. Then we tried a few other labels. And New Rose, we tried because we're huge fans of Chrome. And Damon Edge had just released a solo album. And so we were like, wow, if they like Damon, like, you know what I mean? Like, it was like, wow, they put out a solo album from this guy from Chrome. So that's why we sent our stuff to them, and they signed us right away. So it was, of course, my probably, you know, the first major highlight of our music career, having some label from France calling you on the phone and saying your album is brilliant. So that's my that's my you know, the introduction, right? You're so like, oh wow, okay, really.
Or your
And,
first review in Europe? Your first review in Europe was like, wow, oh my god.
yeah, I mean, you know, it's like anyone who gets signed to any label, I suppose, is as soon as the label tells you that they love what you're doing, then so then we were like, the next thing was we're all gung ho to get over there. And the first thing that we got to do, and I have to admit, this is one thing that nobody else can say. The first thing that we did was we went there to record our second album, Unveiling the Secret, and they happened to have the solo album of Martin Rev from Suicide, his first instrumental solo album. and they had a deal with Suicide, and Suicide was coming for their I don't know how long they'd been away from the music scene or the concert scene, but this was their Suicide coming to play in Paris. And because we were on the label, they got us as the opening act for Suicide in Élysée Montmartre, right? And so here we are in front of 2,000 people when we're still teenagers. And well, I was 21, but and we're playing for, you know, the band that basically started the whole entire damn synth duo thing. And of course,
too, back then,
it's just insane. And so that was like our first thing, our first job in our minds was to try to blow away Suicide.
But
we're very
a duo with a duo.
Yeah, and the duo with the duo, and we were sort of like, you know, we know that they're the legends and they started everything, but we were kind of, you know how kids are. When you're younger, you're a little bit more arrogant. You don't really realize, you don't respect your elders. So we weren't, you know, we were fans of Soft Cell and all the other duos that came later. So we didn't, you know, totally respect Suicide. And we were like, sort of, so who are these guys really? I mean, of course we'd heard Ghost Rider and all that stuff. We were educated enough by then, but we weren't respectful enough, to be honest. And we did meet them backstage, and we had done what you probably would have done, or what had, you know, we went on stage and we got somebody to pretend to be a zombie and lie on the table. We spread blood all over the place. Made a complete mess. And when we went backstage, we met Martin Rev and Ellen Vega, and they're standing around there going, there's something sticky all over the stage. And, you know, my brother and I go to our little room and start laughing our heads off. And so that's I don't know if that answers your European experience, but that was our introduction to, I guess, everything, alternative music, the legends all at the same time, and the burgeoning new groups like us. And then we found out we were really popular in Germany, so we ended up going to Germany after that.
That's a good reason to go there.
Yeah.
And was it a case of like, I'm never going home?
At the beginning, yes.
Yeah.
It was because we really wanted to make it. We thought at the beginning it was like, you know, we're alone in Canada, starting out in Edmonton, and everyone hated our synths, you know, and hated electronic music. So first of all, we thought, go where the people actually like your music, first of all. Secondly, then was the competitive streak, where we thought, well, can we make it somewhere where all the groups that we love come from? You know, Cabaret Voltaire and DAF and everybody. And we were like, first we thought we'd make it in England, but that never happened. So we suddenly became European, basically through the French label, the German label. And it was, you know, it's all kind of, it's not like a plan, right? Like it just, some things happen. And Brain Collapses and Maggots were really popular in Germany. So, you know, we started playing. Unveiling the Secret was our ticket to a larger audience, the second album. That really took off. And then we were like, okay, so this is happening. Here we go. Yeah.
The Saint became a Lush. That was a cool track.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think it makes sense at that time. Like Germany and everything was like, you must have seen the whole sort of scene coming together at that.
We in a way, most of the legends that we both know had already done their thing. Right. So by the time of '86, you know, the whole synth pop thingy was happening. You know, Erasure and Yazoo and all that had already, like, it was already like the pop thing had actually started to happen. So we weren't influenced anymore by like the sort of EBM crowd, because we were sort of thinking, well, now we have this opportunity to go further. And it was really exciting to have this whole new sort of club music and to be accepted as a duo. Not totally though, to be honest, but I mean, you know, like to some degree, it's like at least your songs are played in every club in Germany. and then you can sort of feel like you're a part of something.
Yeah.
So yeah, we hadn't met anyone really, big. We can discuss that. I've always wanted to know, like, groups like us, how many of your heroes have you met, and was it all good, or was it disappointing? So I'll just count off the two that I met. We met Cabaret Voltaire when we were still in Canada. I met Alan Jorgensen. Oh, that's a fun one. But anyway, I met Alan Jorgensen also before we left to Paris. And then I met him again when we were trying to get on a label in London. So this is 86. And then the second time we met him, then we had sort of our own underground hit. So it was kind of neat. And then it was just before he started turning, well, I won't say metal, but you know what I mean, like the more industrial stuff after Twitch, also like the album after Twitch. And then the only other ones that we met was The Cure. But that was all in Canada. So in Europe, we thought we'd be hobnobbing with Kraftwerk and Die Krupps and all those guys, right? I mean, that... So that didn't exactly happen, but I did actually meet Karl Bartos in 92.
Nice.
That's kind of a big deal. And then we did eventually get to know some of the other people, like Jürgen from Die Krupps and stuff. But it was way later. It wasn't like, you go to Europe and you get to meet all your heroes all at once. So like not at all. But since then, we have met quite a few, like Portion Control.
Right.
All the ones who started it, before us even. We've finally run into them at shows or something. So, yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to mention.
Nice guys, Portion. Yeah. And super modest. They're not really nostalgic in any way. So you want to talk about the past, it's like, oh.
Yeah,
I love that.
I find that interesting because I like to. I think when I was younger, I didn't want to about like our earlier albums because we always thought we were like past it. But now I'm like, I kind of love living in the 80s right now, especially now. But anyway, I have to admit, you're right. We were amazed when you meet these people that you think that you guys are the pioneers, you're the gods, right? You want to do the Wayne's World, I'm not worthy thing. And then you're like, and they're all like, we didn't do anything special. And I'm like, what the hell?
Later down the road, you guys have also supported Sparks. What did you think about them?
Oh yeah, that was wild. We've learned so much about attitude towards a longer career because of meeting these kind of groups, right? Because so you like all these groups have had like a hit here or there, different countries, maybe not so high in the charts, but they've all had something that happened, and they've all had the downside, where maybe an album didn't have any single hits or no one bought it. Or was on a label that was like, it was later in the 10-cent dumping bin or whatever. And you really learn a lot when you talk to all these people because they're still going and they still have an audience. And that really inspired us. Like we opened for them for 3 shows because we are trying to convince another label. We've moved around for a few labels. And we're trying to convince the label that we had a single hit with our song Sanctuary, and that we wanted the experience of playing with a more pop-oriented, larger band that has a cult following as well, because it's they're their own thing. I like that. So we met them and we talked about a lot of stuff. 2 things I've learned that I have a lot of respect for is pre-internet or on the edge of the internet. It used to be that people would go to a show and they liked it or they didn't or whatever, but you didn't. With the invention of the internet, let's say you have a concert and it's not at capacity, it's only half capacity, right? So, and then you have all these people going, oh, I really love the show, it's too bad that the audience was like only 20 people in a 200 hall or 2,000 hall, and it was only a quarter full and stuff. And I thought, I hate that you can't get rid of it. But the Sparks don't, like, they're just first of all, they don't talk about it. A show that you do when you play live is a success because you played and you had an audience that was there. it doesn't matter if it was capacity or not.
Right.
It's the success is the show and the audience that was there. That was one thing I learned, so that I wouldn't be so, in a way, like, sad about stupid comments and so on. And then the other one was like, and you don't share that news with anyone. You don't talk about it. You don't do an interview with where the interviewer actually asks you, how do you feel about the fact that your concert wasn't sold out? Well, those questions should never be asked, So I really, really respect that. And I also respect the fact that they, like us in a way, we do our thing. We don't want to compromise. Like, maybe I'll make certain sounds or certain songs because of, I guess, whatever is in vogue, but not to such a degree that I've sold myself out. And that's what another thing I've learned, that if you ever completely go too far and make a really, really crappy song that sounds like other people because you think it's like really hip, if it becomes a hit, you're screwed. Right? And if it doesn't, then the people will always hate you for doing that one thing. Because they'll be like, oh, you really fucked up. I just have tried to avoid that my whole entire career. I've occasionally made compromises because I thought it was on trend, but I've become more ruthless as I continue now. So as do the Sparks, they do their thing.
Yeah. I mean, you guys have, you stay true to what you feel and put your love into what you do. And then, yeah, you don't really care well, it's not like you don't care, but you can't really count your ducks on how many people are there, because a large percentage of those people that are there maybe will appreciate it more than like some of the people that aren't there anyways. So basically, you start to really zone in on the people that have been your followers and your fans and all that thing. And you must see that happening, where you're seeing people showing up and singing the words of your songs and stuff like that.
Yeah. You get to that point where, that's the connection that it's actually about. In the beginning, you're doing your art, you're kind of trying to, I guess, even provoke the world a little bit, with your ideas, and then you realize that you're building a community. It's the same like what you guys have. You have people that want to know how you do certain things, why this sound, and how did these effects work, and what is it you're telling me, and all that. And then you want to communicate with these people, the ones that are really involved in your world. And it really is a community, all of these things you develop. And you can have people dip in and out. I don't mind that so much either. You'll always have people that just like one album or something. But that's also okay. It's cool that you even made an album that maybe only, some people only like that one record. That's also cool if it works,
It's also good that, when you stick true to your guns and then you go back later and realize, oh, wow, how did I do that? Or someone will ask you a question about something and you won't have interpreted the song that way before. And then
that's for sure.
As life goes on, like the meanings of certain songs of certain people, like create a new perspective for you on your own music in that way, which is really interesting. And I mean, for you and I both, I mean, we've gone through periods where we developed a really strong musical bond with our partner. For you, your brother; for me, with Dwayne.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden we realize, well, for you, not quickly, but for me, rather quickly, the loss of these people within our lives, and how what that role plays, and how you're going to continue. Like, I know that, I guess around your third album, you start to know about like what was going on with cEvin.
Yes, that was actually right on this album, 88, when it came out. We were still in France, and we had a few more shows to do, and that was when he first started to have problems, and he was then diagnosed when we flew back to Canada after we did pretty much the last show in Paris, actually. And we actually had gone full circle within the short time of something like 3 years. from Insomnia Theater to Mystery Hotel. So we debuted opening for Suicide, and then we played at the same Elysium Montmartre in Paris with Deform. And
nice. How was
yeah,
that?
yeah, and I think they actually opened for us, and then there was another group called Siglo XX or 20. I don't know how you're supposed to say it. And I think they were the headliner. To be honest, I can barely remember, but that was the last show. So that was like our full circle, 3 years, third album, and then went back to Canada, and then he was diagnosed with schizophrenia. And then it was the question of, okay, what now? Because again, it's not a career plan. We went on a major label telling us you got to make another album or whatever, but like there was a pause there. And I made an album with another guy, David Christian, in Montreal. I lived in Montreal for a while. This is a big, long story, but I'll just shorten it by saying that it was very hard. I didn't really ask my brother for permission the first time, and he was a little bit angry about that album. But at the time, he wasn't really able to do stuff. But because of my loyalty to the fact that Psyche was my brother and I, after that, then we made another album, Daydream Avenue, and then that was 91, and then we made one more. So and then by then I was living in Germany in the 90s, and I asked him and said, would you mind if I continue Psyche, with the logo and the name and the music, but with somebody else, because he wasn't able to even like really write music with us. And so that's when it changed. Yeah, you've got the you've got the whole order. I was gonna hold up my records for you, but
I got them all here, bro.
Wow, I had no idea. I'm really amazed. Well, yeah, so that's the last one with my brother, and then I just carried it on in Germany. So
He just didn't want to be around people anymore. He didn't want to be a part of the business, or didn't want to.
Yeah, he didn't want to be part of the business. That was definite, and he couldn't perform live because he was on medication, and flying from Canada to Europe for a tour was way too much to ask. And so that's when I, after Intimacy, like he wasn't with me in Germany since like 88. So like that was basically Psyche was live without him anyway.
Yeah.
And then but then the idea of making a record without him was really hard. And because how people are so nostalgic and they always want the band to stay together and all that stuff. And sometimes you just can't, like it's very rare that a whole entire band, let's say with 5 members, that it's always going to be the same members forever. It would be nice, but we can't all do it. We can't all make it happen. People said, oh yeah, but he could fly over for like a festival, and then you could do like your first 3 albums and it would be like a really big deal. And so, people have to understand that not everything is it's not that easy to do things that way. I mean, if somebody actually has a physical ailment and can't even fly, like let's say not what he had, but like, they couldn't actually fly, you're not going to have your reunion concert in whatever in Europe. Right. So, I was aware of that, and I realized that it was time to try to keep Psyche going, because this is what I do. Actually, to be honest, this is actually what I do. I don't have any other skill sets at this point. And I still like what I do, but it's so I made that decision, and I always ask for his approval of all the releases that I've made since then. So up until he wasn't with us. But yeah, anyway, sorry, I'm off topic now. So you can guide me to somewhere else.
It really is about like at a certain point, you have the love and you've got the basis to keep things going. And
right.
I hope everything was cool about like did cEvin like fully support like when you finally did move on with the other people? Was he okay with that?
Yes. Well, the first album without him was called Strange Romance, and then I did another one. I've had a few different keyboarders since then, but so I had like periods of 2 albums per keyboarder. And but the first two, he liked them. And yeah, that's around the time that I was visiting after I made the next album. And he liked all of it, except for, this is really funny. This is the most hilarious thing. Goodbye Horses, our cover of Goodbye Horses was the B-side to a single that we had just released. And it totally took off. My brother loved the single. The A-side was called You Ran Away. He loved it. He thought that was great synth pop and didn't understand why the hell anyone would listen to Goodbye Horses. Well, that became the next parallel universe for our whole entire career since that song was done. But yeah, so I always found that really funny that he didn't stand behind that one. And I think from the records that we did later, the covers that I've done later, his favorite was when we did Disorder from Joy Division. He really respected that one.
Nice.
And that was pretty much it. But he liked all of the stuff that we did. I'm trying to think what his favorite of my keyboarders was. Probably the Strange Romance album, actually, the one with You Ran Away and Goodbye Horses. So yeah. I have question. Here we go.
Can you share with us a story behind Goodbye Horses?
Oh geez.
And who was the original artist who wrote this timeless piece? Psyche or Q Lazarus?
Oh wow. Okay, so
any contribution to this song.
Yeah.
Yes, love the immortality mixes. Thank you, Matt, for your question.
Okay, this is cool. I forgot about that you have people writing in. We should do a few more. Okay, I'll do this. Yeah, really, that's great. Actually, I'll do this really quickly. Okay, Goodbye Horses. Okay, anyone who wants to take the time to look at their VHS or DVD of Silence of the Lambs can clearly read the credits that it's not us who did the song there. I'm not going to get into all the details. Okay, so since then, the writer of the song, William Garvey, has passed away. Now the singer, Q Lazarus, died this year. And Dwayne had nothing to do with it because Dwayne was in Skinny Puppy by the time we covered Goodbye Horses. So let's just clear that up. So Dwayne was joined you guys on Mind the Perpetual Intercourse, and that was, I believe, what, 85, 86?
July 1986.
Okay, so there we go. So Goodbye Horses was recorded by Psyche in 1995. And the film came out in 1991 or 90. So Dwayne had nothing to do with it. And it's not our version in the film, although our version is based on how it sounds when you hear it in Silence of the Lambs. So that's my definition. Yeah, let's move on for Goodbye Horses. Any other cool questions?
I think there is a couple other questions here. Let's see. Let's see here. I will get it on the screen for you. Seth Ogden. Hey, Seth. Unveiling the Secret is one of my favorite records. A Saint Becomes a Lush is just classic, as I said to you earlier, and also the remix too, by the way. I'm curious what the synth used on the main opening synth line.
That's a good question. I know Seth. Hi, Seth. Well, we had the Pro 1s and the Korg Monopoly, and I do believe the High Sequence is actually one of my brother's Pro 1s, but it could also be the Roland Microcomposer, the 202, because he was doing a lot of his, what I call trumpety sounds on that one. But to be, I can't guarantee you that I know one of those two.
You got to remember, we got you on the spot.
Yeah, I know.
What's this? Oscar Ramirez writes, what was Dwayne's setup like during the very early years upon jamming together? And what bands was he listening to around you in those early years?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, so we were all into Yazoo. We absolutely loved them. Yeah, and I know they're called Yaz in Canada and US, but anyway, Yazoo for me, Alison Moyet and Vince Clarke. And I think his other favorite band, I know we liked The Police. We liked the Zenyatta Mandata album. But synth-wise, it was all Yazoo. And we were also inspired by, of course, Soft Cell was my big thing. And the Hendrix medley that Soft Cell did, that was my first introduction to synths rocking out. So just so you know, and he had actually the pictures that Kevin's showing are good because oh wow, another SNFU T-shirt, and in the background. So that stand, we had that stand for a long time, and Dwayne brought to us the it was some kind of Yamaha something. I think it had the first sort of arpeggiators on it.
Yeah.
Love that. I'm sorry to tell you, but I can't remember the name of it exactly. But anyone who wants to look at the White Pages video will see Dwayne and my brother synths in full display. So I'm assuming that's what we had. Yeah, and those racks were definitely, that was not in our
That's
time.
Skinny Puppy World. That's what we went on
to. We only had, like, he had his 2 synths. My brother has.
He brought the Mirage. He brought a Mirage, and he brought
wow.
rack. He brought this rack, and he
we didn't have any of that. So just so you know.
And he monitored through one speaker down here on the floor, which is really wasn't even in stereo, which is really weird.
Wow. No, he brought us like 2 main synthesizers. One had the arpeggiator on it and that silver stand, and that was pretty much it. So we recorded to cassette directly in those days.
And so after you formed with David Christian, I've heard of him from friends and stuff like that throughout the years. I don't think I've ever met him either. Is he from Montreal?
He's from Montreal, and he does more like experimental stuff. And he did, like some games and film soundtracks he's done. And it's all like really weird with samples and analog synths. And he I met him actually at the very last concert that Psyche performed live with my brother, and that was in Montreal.
What was that?
That was 1989. And we had just bought the Casio FZ1. And,
nice.
Yeah, and David had also just bought the Casio FZ1, and so he helped us carry ours carefully down the stairs behind the Foufoune Electrique, because he said, you got to be careful with this baby. And and so the Casio love brought us together, and then David and I made the influence with the whole entire album is made just with that sampler.
Nice. And was that, we got Strange Romance?
Yeah, that's the first one after I decided to make music in Germany with another keyboard. Yeah, those 2 are Per Anders Kurenbach, and those are my 90s albums without my brother.
What a nice spider. Is that your pet?
Yeah, well, we had a bug wrangler for that album cover. And that's the next keyboarder of the 2000s. That's on that live. That picture is actually us opening for the Sparks.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And that's then the 2001 album. And that was when I made a few compromises to the young generation and started doing a little bit more future pop sounding things. And that had the song Sanctuary that was kind of a hit for us in the clubs. And then that was the follow-up EP. And then we made one more album together called Babylon Deluxe. Yeah, there it is. Wow. Your timing is immaculate here.
Yeah. Great covers too. Who's doing the art?
Well, those ones are actually, the one with the spider was Strange Ways. And this thing here with the cactus was on Accession Records, which is the home of Diary of Dreams and Diorama. And we weren't happy about like letting somebody take over the cover designs, because we're kind of hands-on in that area. Like the album with David Christian was completely painted and designed by him. We're kind of like that with Psyche. We want to, like, the whole expression should be from the artists themselves. So it's very hard for us to let somebody else do it. But I like the Babylon Deluxe one very much. The Hiding Place wasn't all that hot. The Psyche logo has been a form of contention for many a label, where they always said, let's make a new start and change the logo to something else. I love the logo. Yeah, we do too. And it's a really hard call, because people said, you'll never be commercial with that logo, because the logo is, well, it is based on the Cramps, the original one. And the next one that we use all the time now was sort of a refining of that and making it our own. But it definitely screams underground. I don't mind that. I mean, these days you can do that. You can be underground and you can be weird and still have a pop record. But in those days you couldn't. And and they were like, you got to move on. You want to be more sleek and you got to have a nice, smooth thing. And I was sort of like, yeah, but the word is psyche. It should look,
could you say, well, it's the goddess Psyche?
Oh no, yeah.
No,
See, I
no.
know it's not actually. It's not. It's it's the dictionary definition.
Yeah.
And
You
of course,
could say
the rough edge of Killing Joke was what gave us the feeling, right? So we're like, yeah, we couldn't, we just refused to change it. So like, I'm happy with that because it's sort of like, if we ever had a top 40 hit, well, it's still going to be that logo. I don't care.
It's interesting, though. I think that you guys have not done many shows in North America. I've never,
Yeah,
as far as I know, had too many opportunities to ever see you. So
that's your fault.
I'm so sorry. I apologize. Accept the apology humbly.
Maybe now the only way is you could see us is if we play together.
Yeah, that's what we're going to have to organize here. For sure. But you have, and what's really cool is that you guys have played in South America and South Africa.
Yeah, that was kind of a, see, I'm a very competitive person. So if I see other people that I think are making music, let's say I'll call them our compatriots. We were on a session records of the label Diary of Dreams, and they had actually played in South Africa. And I was like, how the hell does a goth band end up in South Africa? Like, who's the audience for that?
Yeah.
And then I think a year later, V&V Nation had played there in Johannesburg and stuff. So,
Really?
I just made some connections and we ended up we played twice, but we never played in Johannesburg. So that's even weirder. We played in Cape Town, which is more of the holiday place. But there was goth and metal and some wavy bands. And I guess it's just, I just think, hey, if somebody else got to play there, and I think that, they're the same people would appreciate seeing Psyche, then we try to go there. Yeah, that's why.
How was it? Did you like it? Did you enjoy it? Or
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
I love I love the fact that my music might actually even be heard by two people in some place that I thought
It's incredible.
I'd never seen in my life, right? And
Yeah.
then so my that was a highlight, and the other one was Brazil was the first time in 2019, so that was a really big deal for me. And I have an obsession with Latin America that I can't explain. I just do. I don't know why. I love all those, the Day of the Dead stuff in Mexico and all that. Let's face it, I'm a goth. Okay, so playing in Mexico for the first time was like that. That was like number one on my list. It was like I have to play in Mexico, but I honestly can't explain it because it's not like I have any cultural ties or connection. It's just one of these weird things. It's just maybe certain countries or certain attitudes have an appeal to your soul in some way that you didn't know about. And so I have a really strong connection there, and I want to go back next year. But
Wow.
it's the first live album I ever released was live in Mexico. So that's my connection and doing the country sort of my honor to Mexican culture. Yeah,
That's awesome. Well,
yeah. So,
following your dreams and doing the things that you want to do, it's so cool.
well,
And
have you guys never played in Mexico or South
no,
America? Oh,
no,
I didn't even know that. I am not aware of this fact. So,
you're
so
ahead.
yeah, it is. Obviously you could, because I'm sure that the audience is there. That's always the question for me: is where is the audience? And I'm amazed when there's certain areas that you could go to where I never thought in a million years that someone would listen to our music. So that's great, though.
Did you ever go to Australia or Japan?
Yes, we've done Australia, but we haven't done Japan. Japan is also high on my list, but I'm a little in a way I'm a little afraid because it seems to me the most foreign somehow. It's strange, but
One,
because of the whole people are obsessed with anime and manga and all these things, and I'm not into that. I'll be sorry to say, but I'm really not, and so I find that really weird. I'm more into the sugar skulls of Mexico and the and I like all the African stuff too. So like I thought South Africa was cool,
Oh, wow.
and yeah, so no, it's on our list. But Australia we've been to.
How,
Also
was-
didn't
how was that? How,
I thought, no way in hell is there an audience there. But we went, and we played one time in New Zealand, and they've had Nitzarab and Bauhaus and The Cure and all that. I thought it's not like, it's English speaking country. I figured should be okay.
well, I should also mention another classic Canadian band that you guys have recently been doing some
Oh yes,
collaborations with,
thank you. Yes, that's great. Yeah,
classic Rational Youth.
yeah.
I mean, they may even be before Psyche and Skinny Puppy.
Oh yes, they
Yeah, I
are.
think, what, 81, huh?
Yeah, yeah,
And you guys have got together on some stuff here and you're doing
yeah.
Thunderstruck. Is that the AC/DC?
Yes, it is.
That's
Yes.
awesome. Who came up with that idea?
Okay, so I think it's brilliant that we actually did that. First, I'll just say that Rational Youth was like also our Canadian heroes, right?
For
This
sure.
is weird because oh wow, you have the autograph. Okay, wow. Okay, so all right, so you started with Images and Vogue, so you kind of were already synth pop, right?
Yeah.
And I think we weren't as aware of your stuff, but we did know. I think maybe that "Call on Me" song, or if it wasn't that a single,
Call
and
it, call it love. Yeah.
yeah, "Call It Love," and but before that was "City of Night," right? Was really big, and also the single with the Cold War night, the Cobaloid Race, and "I Want to See the Light." And we thought first they were British, because the first time I heard them, it was like a single import, and
Yeah, for sure.
and then it's like, oh my god, it's Canada's own, right? So we were like, amazing. Canada has their own synth band. It's like we consider them Canada's Kraftwerk, basically, and the pioneers for Canada. And we were too young to even see them when they played in Edmonton, so we couldn't even like sneak in.
I think I was too.
And and so we've always worshipped them. One of our songs, "Insatiable," is kind of a ripoff of "City of Night." I'll tell you that now. Um, and then we had no contact, but thanks to the internet, when MySpace first started, somehow I ended up contacting Tracy, and we just became friends through MySpace. MySpace friends, and and then how did it happen that we got together? It really took ages. It was never a plan. It was they were coming to Sweden to do some shows, and we had heard this and begged the promoter to let us open for them, because we'd played in Sweden many times, but we just thought, how dare you bring Rational Youth without getting Psyche on the bill, So we just made that happen, and then accidentally, they have a big fan. All the the synth fans, they hate guitars, right? So as a joke, they were gonna do Thunderstruck as an encore, so I heard the demo one before they even played it, and I said, oh my god, I have to sing with you on the song. I just it's getting back at all the rockers that beat me up at school when I was in Edmonton. So this is my ultimate revenge, is going on stage in Sweden and doing a synth pop version of Thunderstruck. And so we love doing that. And then then strangely enough, I thought, let's just do that as a single. So that's how that came about. And that's when we started doing stuff again with Artifact Records. We were on Artifact from 2000 to 2003, and then we sort of licensed, and then we made the re-release of what I call the Holy Trinity of the Psyche albums, the first three, with Artifact. So we started doing re-releases, and then this all came together around the same time. So that's why we did the Thunderstruck as well, and we've since done a couple other little special releases with Jacek. And so that's it just came full circle. But this is what I meant about meeting heroes and the things that can happen. Never ever in my wildest dreams would I have thought that Tracy and I had so much in common.
Again,
It's really weird. And to do a tour together, so I organized 4 tours of Germany with them because he never played in Germany, and I just thought that was ridiculous, right?
yeah,
It was
yeah.
just like we were talking about where have you never played, where you know that they should have, right? And so we're sort of like wanted to make up for all the lost years. And of course they'd been to Sweden because they were like really big there, but that was about it. So so since then they did a few shows, and then the weirdest part came when we decided to do a tour together in Canada. So
Right, yeah.
I played in Canada in Edmonton in 2018 for the first time in 35 years.
How was it?
It was really good, but it was a pretty damn small place. we weren't any bigger than when we left, and to be honest, even more shocking is that we were the headliner, and I found that almost mildly insulting. But at that time, Psyche was maybe just a little bit cooler because we'd been around longer than our heroes, Rational Youth, played before us, and I thought, well, this is just insane. But yeah, that happened. But we switched around throughout the tour, but we weren't commanding audiences of 1,000 people or anything like that. So it was all very indie.
Didn't you guys do the Rickshaw Theater in Vancouver, or did that?
Yes, we did. And,
Finally, you made it.
guess what? My first time ever in Vancouver on stage with Psyche.
That's awesome.
That was it. Can you imagine? 2018. I mean, it was like, wow, here we are. We actually got to Vancouver.
Really, what, 30 something years later, and
Yeah.
the Vancouver scene conquered.
Yeah, sort of. Well, we tried. We got our foot in the door finally.
I mean, it must get to the point, like with you and I both, where we realize, wow, we've got quite a history behind us.
Yeah.
Maybe more so than we ever even can realize.
Sometimes you don't. You realize it until people tell you.
Yeah. And then, you get to a point where you've got like Unforgotten Rhymes, a tribute to Psyche 2015, people doing the covers and dedication and everything. And you've got Artifact, which
Yeah.
has come along and really been supportive of making sure the releases get released on vinyl and everything again.
Definitely. Artifact has really been, that's another thing that I love. We left Canada because we felt, it wasn't enough and we needed to do the European thing, right? And then we end up getting the respect and the return through a Canadian label. So that's just like the best thing ever, really, because then finally you return to your country, and it's because the Canadian label actually was there, aware of your music all along. And so I love that. I think it's the best thing that you can have happen.
I'm so happy to be on the same label as you finally.
Yeah.
And tons of stuff on the Bandcamp where people can go and just like check it all out.
Well, I started doing it. I was really wary of these kind of things because I don't know. I like to be more secretive and stuff, and I didn't want to have this output all the time. So this massive crap that you're showing,
it's a lot of stuff to be proud of.
It started out really small with me, just like wanting to have some kind of weird internet, exclusive release, and then I decided it was a nice place to go for obscure things like live albums, like bootlegs, right?
Sure.
So in the old days, people would just like trade cassette bootlegs, and then I would I thought, well, wouldn't it be neat to like give access to all these live bootlegs that we had over the years for fans? So I started doing that, and I hesitated for a while to actually release releases that already were on CD and stuff. But then I got into it. Now you see all that stuff. Yeah, that solo website
too.
Yeah, I sort of just I tried every now and then to do like stuff that was, I guess, outside of Psyche, to present myself as a singer, but it's Psyche is mainly like my main course. So
Well, I mean, these days it's totally normal to expand and collaborate with all sorts of like-minded individuals you run into, and you know, test the waters with, like, say, as you have with Lounge and Inside and all the other projects that you have, and you know, even attempting to deliver songs in acoustic manners too.
Yeah, yeah, I'm kind of weird like that because it wasn't that's all accidents, right? Like it's not like I you know how some people are like, "Oh, I'm sick of my band. I got to do the solo stuff." And I never was. So that's why I hadn't like, you know, like way later in life I even put anything out under my own name because I was always afraid like of doing anything outside of Psyche, to be honest. Yeah, I guess I'm in a way I'm a late bloomer in that area, like Dave Gahan from Depeche Mode, right? You've got your main thing, and then maybe one day you say, "Well, I'll just give it a shot." I was mildly envious of Mark Almond because I mean, Soft Cell only made 3 albums in the '80s, and then he was solo, and then he had his Mambas, and that was my inspiration. Let's face it, like without Mark Almond, I probably wouldn't be doing half the stuff I was doing. But I was like so. I thought, okay, I got to try, you know, I want to do other stuff, different musical styles and everything. I've done a few things. And yeah, you mentioned Lounge, and all these things are accidents, though. They're all just like somebody came up with something that was neat. And I said, oh, maybe I can sing on that. And then it became something. Inside was a side project that was also an accident because the singer had left of The Eternal Afflict and they wanted to continue making music. So all of a sudden that became a weird semi-super group for the for those in the know, and but you learn things from all this. But I'm slowly returning to Psyche. So
That's
I
cool.
tried a few things and I thought it was neat, but now I always feel Psyche is, like I said, the main course, and I feel that what we do, I have the room to move. Everything I need and want to do is still in Psyche, so I don't feel boxed in, actually, which is nice because you know, sometimes people, you know, break off from their band and do stuff, and then the fans are like, "Why the hell did you do that kind of music?" You know, I don't want to have that happen.
Oh, yeah, that can happen. I'll take
Yeah.
responsibility on there. You guys, you remain pretty active playing live quite a bit, I'm noticing. And
Yeah, that's my thing now. Yeah.
even like you guys played in Milan, Italy in May of 2020. Wasn't that where the hotbed of COVID was, right at that moment?
Oh no, we weren't there in 2020 actually. We were in Italy. That's another weird one. So I've been in Europe for so long. We've done Belgium, Germany, France, and most of the European countries, but we'd never played in Italy until 2011. And like that was the first time ever. No, where we were just before COVID hit was actually one weekend in Germany. That was it. It was like we had a weekend at the end of February 2020, and then nothing for a year and a half. 2021, we managed to do 3 shows, 2 open airs and one in Poland, and then we this year has been like a lot, like more than I even thought was possible. It's just what I do because I haven't actually made an official Psyche full-length album since 2005. I'm embarrassed to say, but
Don't be
I
embarrassed.
don't know. It just happened, you know. That was another thing that just happened. Yeah,
You've
you
been doing
just
covers and stuff, though, right? You've been
yeah. I throw out covers
Riders
every
on
now.
the Storm. Man, come on. Jim Morrison. I love him.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Unpredictable
yeah.
Future.
Well, yeah. I mean, also the Doors. To be honest, that's another thing. That's good that you mentioned that because it really Psyche. I'd say our third album, Mystery Hotel. That's actually Soft Cell meets the Doors.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's all in there. It's all
I know
in
the
that one
secrets
record.
now.
That weird mishmash of these two periods of time, and yeah, that's kind of a major influence as well on the basically that album a little bit later, but not too much like after that. Then it was like more, I don't know, I can't. So actually, my next big hero was Nina Simone. I got all obsessed with Nina Simone for like about 10 years. Like like totally obsessed.
Good
Like I have
influences.
every single damn song that woman ever sang on. Yeah, but you know, that's kind of just weird, obscure stuff. But yeah, I lost track. So the covers. Okay, I'll tell you something about covers. Okay, first of all, I had a manager of some other synth pop group, and he told me, don't ever do covers, because if one of the covers becomes your hit, you know, then you're screwed for life. And he was right, because I mean, Soft Cell had Tainted Love, and that is always going to be their, you know, thing that hangs out over all the other songs. I had avoided covers till 1994, other than our early beginnings, but nobody really heard them. So 1994, it was all Psyche, 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 and then we decided to do Sex Dwarf.
Right, yeah. Why not?
Yeah, why not? Just because I don't know. I thought if you're going to do one of the Crasser songs, that's the one, right? So
Yeah.
here we are doing Sex Dwarf, and then of course that actually became one of the most popular songs for a while in the '90s. Like, you got to play Sex Dwarf, until Goodbye Horses came along, and then destroyed everything. But but so because it just eclipsed all, you know. So I don't mind. I continued on doing my own thing, and then we didn't do covers for quite a while after that. And now I do them. It's more of a fun thing. It's not supposed to take over the, you know, the balance of Psyche's value. It's just to show, here's some of my favorite songs. I just want to do them for, I was doing them more for a Bandcamp thing. I don't take them as a, I'm not like a major label where I'm like, you got it, you know, I need a hit, so I'm going to do a cover. I don't do it like that. I just do them because I just feel like this one fits with Valentine's Day or whatever, you know. So whenever the new Psyche song comes out, it's gonna, you know, it's our song. So the only new song we did was Youth of Tomorrow and Truth or Consequence. And that was our single in 2018 on our Artifact. And that was my statement, because I was like, okay, I'm ready to write something new. I have something I need to say. And so that's then Psyche. And the covers should never be taken as an important, you know, they're just fun things. Yeah.
I think you just got to play it when you feel like it, you know, do it when
Yeah.
do it when you feel like it. And, you know, if it happens that way, then in the meantime, it's not like you guys have stopped. You're still out there. You got a crazy amount of shows
Yeah.
coming up. Like, you'll be working in a couple weeks from now.
Yeah. Well,
It's like in Detmold, Germany. You're going to be at Stad Hall in January.
yeah, some festivals, a lot of German stuff, and then we're supposed to go to Texas.
What's this?
Yeah.
That's burger joint. Is that a one-off?
Well, no. It's what's missing is it's actually 3 shows in Texas with Covenant, and it's we have a very good friend in Texas who is working at the Numbers Club in Houston, and he's been asking us the last 3 years to come. And sometimes the schedule doesn't work, and then COVID came in the middle of everything, so that blew away a few years. And so now the next attempt is San Antonio, Houston, Dallas, and I believe even Denver is in the whole mix there. Yeah, so they're not online yet, because I'm I got to be careful, like, you know, with timing of things that are solid and the things that might not pan out. But
Right.
so I know I'm a little embarrassed that the only show that's listed for Texas is Sam's Burger joint. But anyway,
It sounds funny. It sounds funny, but you know what? You can't judge it on that way. Like I think the scene, you know, was particularly supported very vibrantly by,
I know.
I say, Jason Novak with the Cold Waves thing, as well as like in Texas, you've got like the Elysium and the crew down there at the burger joint.
Yeah,
And,
I know. There's a big scene. There's they've had Front 242 and It's a Reb and all these lots of stuff. We you know, we never tried North America. Like, I never really went all in on there. I was like, I'm happy here when I'm in Germany and playing just around Europe, Sweden, you know, or wherever is interesting that I've never seen. And the States, the very first concert we ever did was in New York in 2000. I think it was 2000 or 2001. I can't remember which. I think it was exactly 2000. And since then, we've had our little baby steps. So we come when we get to be at a festival. So like this year, the Chicago, New York return to New York was wonderful because Chicago was this, beautiful old theater, the Thalia Hall, which I believe is one of the oldest theaters in the whole city. And I was like, yeah, if you're going to come to the States, you got to do it right. It's
Yeah. Did you ever collaborate with Karl Bartos?
In a way. So this is probably going to be a long chapter in my biography, but I made a song called Heaven and Pain. That was my first attempt at making a solo single, which again ended up on a Psyche release, because it didn't really become a hit as a solo artist. And I had recorded it with some other producer, and it ended up being remixed by Electric Music, which was Karl Bartos and I believe the engineer of Einstürstende Neubauten, I think, and also he was from Rheingold. John Caffery, this German group that was in the Neue Deutsche Welle. So yeah, they actually created the version that's actually on my Intimacy album. And that's what I've got behind me here is I did, for the first time ever, I did a pledging thing. You guys have experienced that. This is the album Intimacy, but not with the bird on the cover. Right. Because this is the weird thing that happened in our industry is when it was no more vinyl or CD only. And, we were riding high on the days when we had a CD and vinyl at the same time. But it's the moment when vinyl disappeared, that album was only on the CD. So my biggest and most important thing to do was to get this baby on an actual vinyl, because it never was. So I like the idea. And that was the first time I decided to allow. It's probably going to fall over, so I'll just put it away. I decided to try this pledging routine. I mean, we've all been through all these new modern things, and now we've got our vinyl back. So that's another thing I was just going to say is I don't know. I mean, maybe sometime I'll interview you because I always want to know how all the other bands dealt with all of our bizarre industry changes and got through all these different things, and now I'm for me, so if you don't play live, like I can't even imagine a band that doesn't play live. Let's say you can play live rarely or occasionally, but like not at all for 10 years. I can't imagine like how you would survive in this industry. I mean, first of all, I like to play live and I love to sing. So I actually like that more than making music in the studio. So good for me. I got lucky.
That is good. And then you've got like the never ending scene in Germany. It seems like the world of the Gothic underground will go forever.
Yes, you are right. I mean, let's face it. We've all had our major success. Definitely, Germany has the largest audience, and Germany has the most festivals. It has the most goth and electronic music. Yeah. Other countries every now and then. We're going through a weird period where it's coming back to North America in the last while. There was a definite drought in the 90s, all the way up till I'd say 2001, where it was, it was kind of like it wasn't happening. Everyone was coming over to Europe and doing the festivals, and I'm happy to see that it's now all these genres of music are accepted. But also we're going through a little bit of an 80s revival, and we can only enjoy that as much as possible because I'm happy to be a part of that.
Yeah, because now we're going back and like trying to remember how we did certain things, and
exactly
because of that sound.
Yeah.
And that brings us full circle to like me saying just how much I appreciate this album. Yeah. Remembering Dwayne. If any of you out there have not heard this, go check it out on the Psyche Bandcamp. Is it on vinyl too?
It's on vinyl, but only the edition without all the remixes and the bonus tracks. So just the pure tracks that we did with Dwayne on 4-track are on the vinyl, and that's on the Dark Entries label. And Artifact has the CD. So, and they came at totally different times. They have The vinyl has a picture of us with Dwayne just as he's split, so we have like a torn. He's being torn away from us. I don't have it here, so I can't show you. But yeah, so they're all out there, and that was the early stuff like the crawler and
This is also super cool
yeah,
as well.
yeah.
I don't know what it is about the 80s sound or whatever like that. I just can't get enough of like how that era sounds. If I go back and listen to like Bourbonese Quack or Benny Gesserit or even, some of the old Pink Dots, as you say, the first Portion Control records.
Oh yeah, yeah. Because we were limited. We only had so many choices, and we had to be as creative as possible.
Yeah.
And, we're also searching. Nowadays, you got a million loops and samples thrown at you. Almost anyone and their dog can make actually music. To be honest, I mean, they really can. I mean, you can honestly be almost blind, deaf, and dumb, and you can probably come up with a groove if you press the right loop button. But in those days, we were making our soundtracks of our lives with the instruments that we chose to use. And my brother, we got into synths because the first time that my brother heard, I think this is really silly, but R2D2 on Star Wars, and yeah, the noises, right? Like it's going weird, weird, and he was like, I want to make those sounds. I want to be able to control those sounds, and that's how it started. It was sort of like, and then you got your bass lines and stuff, and then you're like, oh wow, I can be an actual band with just these, with the sequencer and play my chords, and that's the problem, and that's the way you can go back to it. Is now when we write our new stuff, our single, Youth of Tomorrow is not all sequenced and programmed on the computer. We're playing the solos. Another thing about Psyche that's kind of weird, but we're like the only band that's like really hot for synth solos. Our songs have to have a solo. So I don't know. It's like that's the Psyche part of it. Some people don't like it, but I'm just like, that's what we do. Sorry. So yeah, we play a lot. Hands on is the way to make the sound. Yeah.
Man, try and wrap it up here before we go over 2 hours. But what's next for you? What other than the live shows? Are you going to make a new album? Are you feeling it, or is it like?
I was going to say dinner. Dinner is next for me because now my family's upstairs. but no, I am trying. Okay, so sometimes to do new songs, I need a theme. I need to say something. I was very angry about the last 4 years, as everyone probably was, for certain reasons that we will not be named. And I had some things I needed to say about what I felt the future generation was heading into. And that's when I wrote my Youth of Tomorrow song. And I'm kind of, the weird thing about Psyche is what we do also, I think that's kind of unique, is we make sort of catchy songs every now and then, but the material is dark as hell. And so you find yourself singing along to our vicious little themes. I never really thought about it that much until somebody from Sweden pointed out and said, all your songs today, even the poppiest ones, they're kind of sinister. And I was like, oh yeah, you know what? You're right. Because it's Psyche, right? It's not love and flowers here. So I'm always writing about like what's happening in the times, and sometimes what I think the future might look like. And I've been working on a song or an album title. It's called Light Before Day, and sometimes I take book titles from people, or maybe a few movie titles, I'll be honest with you. And Light Before Day is just a book from Christopher Rice, the son of Anne Rice. And well, obviously, and just in case no one knew. And and I have this title in my head, and I've got 3 different versions of this song that's going with that title. And I know what I want to say, but I haven't quite found the final music to it. But there will be an album, and that will be the title. I promised myself. And so that's what we're working towards. And I sort of call it research now, because my albums are like a library of where I'm at, for the different periods.
Mhm.
And I found it really odd releasing Intimacy, which was really the last recording with my brother. And it's from 1992 and 94 originally. So a lot of people obviously are, were just born then. And I released it on vinyl, and I campaigned it a little bit by making music videos. And people thought it was a new album, and and said, "Oh wow, your album's it's kind of different from what you usually do." But yeah, I really like that song "Broken Heart" and "Heaven and Pain," and and I was sort of like, "Oh, okay." So sometimes, I can maybe re-release something that could be new, and I'm kind of glad about that. But it's a challenge because, as you know, every time you make a new album, you kind of want to go what you consider forward, or learn something new, present something new, and it has to surprise you as well as the audience. And so that's what I'm working on. I'm working on that great surprise that when it comes up, people say, "Oh wow, I didn't expect you to do that."
Well, I just want to wish you like the best to you back in Canada for the holidays here, and thank your parents for helping us get the connection.
Yeah,
I look forward to hearing like what's going to happen, and just keep in touch. Like we've got a little bit of a bridge here now built, so no reason to feel like a stranger anymore. I wish you the best, Darrin. Thank you so much for joining us today and like filling us in on the.
I thank you very much for this. This has been one of the most important things in my life, to talk to you actually after all these years of sort of being a little bit averse to the whole skinny puppy thing. I'm sorry. I apologize for that.
There's no.
And I really, it's a strong feeling. It's great to have people to have a connection or disconnection for such a long time and actually find a way to get together. And I just wanted to say, yeah, you'll be hearing from me. And if we ever need to do one of those legendary let's get together and do that one,
yeah, we need to arrange it.
We don't have to tour, but maybe we can
show someone.
do a Vancouver here we are after 42 years show or something like that. Would be fun.
Yeah, I definitely up for it, and I'll keep you posted on that. But thank you for everybody for your support on the side here with the questions, and also big up to Stephen and Dwayne Gettle. In your spirit, rest in peace. We love you, and let's check in soon, Darrin, and all the best. Have a good dinner. I'm so sorry to the Huss family for holding you up.
That's all right. We've organized everything perfectly, and I just wanted to say, maybe sometime we can do another one where we just answer everyone's questions if you like.
Sure.
Sometime when I've finally made a new album, or whenever you feel like it, just let me know.
Keep us posted. But all the best to you, and best wishes, and see you soon.